VeeFam, welcome back to another episode of the VeeFam Sessions. My name is Mr. Messer, but you can call me Rob, and I am so honored to be joined today by the one, the only Mr. Harry Burgess, better known as Burge, VeeFriends OG. He's been one of the first mods in the VeeFriends Discord, Spaces host, streamer, pickleball aficionado, you name it. Burge is that guy. Burge, thank you so much for being on the VeeFam Sessions. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
I mean, one of the purposes, one of my intentions with this podcast was to tell the story of the VeeFriends community and the VeeFriends project, as so much is happening so rapidly, and to get to talk to someone that was there in the trenches from the get is such a pleasure for me. But before we get into VeeFriends and all of that stuff, I always like to ask people, can you give us the 55-second Cliff Notes version on who Burge is prior to ever hearing the name Gary Vee?
Damn, that's a tough one. I guess. I mean, I guess if we go right back to school, it would probably be, at first a very hardworking student, um, top of my class in primary school, and then going into secondary school. Obviously, there's more competition, but I was still a very good student, achieving very good grades in the early years. And then I think there was kind of a rebellious um, trait that kind of started building in me, um, and especially, and almost like a willingness or a want to kind of go against the convention. And when I went to university, like we were pushed into, you're a good student, you've got good grades, go to university. That's what, you know, almost all of my friends were told. And so when I went to university and then it wasn't quite clicking, I kind of realized I needed to get out. I needed to take my own path in life. I wasn't happy with getting a traditional job, and that's kind of what's led me down this rabbit hole, led me to discover Gary, and led me here today with VeeFriends.
Interesting. And I know you're in the UK, obviously. Are you in London?
I'm just outside of London, so about, half an hour, 35-minute, 40-minute train
Got
from
it.
London.
Fantastic. So that's an interesting juxtaposition, the good grades versus, doing everything by the book and then finding that like, oh, that there's this other world out there where there's no lines to draw in neatly. And it's just kind of a free for all. It's very interesting, especially kind of double tapping into you. So when was the first time you remember either hearing a piece of Gary's content, maybe seeing it, reading a book? What was your introduction to that world, which has become a big part of your life?
So that would have been when I was in university. I think kind of at that time I was looking for alternatives almost. Um, I kind of knew that I wasn't really happy in university, um, was kind of in a rut, but I also kind of knew where I was heading. Initially, I had this idea of, getting this job in investment banking, and um, and like investing in stocks and shares, that was like a big passion of mine. And so I just naturally thought, what is the job that coincides with that? Um, But then I started realizing, actually, I'm not so sure if I'd be happy, even if I was working that job, which is, my dream job at the time. And that kind of led me down the path of discovery. I guess it would have been maybe 2019, 2020, um, to, finding Gary Vee's content. I don't know exactly how it happened. Probably, something cropped up on Instagram, like a reel, or maybe reels weren't even back then. So maybe just a post, and I saw him. I saw him, and I saw kind of what he was preaching. And at first, I'm not the type of person to say it wasn't like I didn't like Gary, but at the same time I wasn't, convinced. There's so many people online that kind of play this persona, and
Mm.
so it took me a while to come around to, you know, understanding him as a person. And now I'm at a stage where, I really feel like I've got a good grasp of who he is. And it's sad actually because I feel like so many people out there don't have a good grasp of who he is.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's true, and true for anyone. I mean, you probably, I don't know what piece of content you saw or caught your eye, and I don't know if it was reaffirming things that you wanted to see or were feeling at that time. But a lot of people don't click into the profile and keep on getting enough context. So yeah, there's a lot of people walking around that don't know the true him.
Yeah,
Um,
I can actually jump on that. I can the content, I don't know exactly what it was initially, but the thing that I connected with a lot was the idea of flip life. You know, the idea of um, you can go and actually earn. You can have this side hustle where you earn some extra money, or even potentially it be your full-time job. And I've always been, it's kind of weird, but for even as a kid, I was using eBay, buying and selling. You know, I sold toys on there when I was like 11, 12 years old, which is like very odd, really. Um, and so that, I think that side clicked of like, wait, hang on a sec. Like, is that actually a skill set of mine? I think it actually could be, because I had this history to look back at and be like, no, I have bought and sold stuff in the past. And that is something I enjoy doing. And that's kind of like the thing I connected on, because it was an alternative to, you know, getting a traditional job. What about if I do flipping full time and potentially earn, you know, a livable wage off it?
I love that, and we're very similar in that regard. I remember doing the same thing when I was young, and I would have my mom. This was before PayPal and anything electronic. I remember my mom taking me to the post office a few times a week so I could get money orders. I'd give the post office cash, I'd get money orders, send it, get my stuff, ship out packages, the whole thing.
Damn.
Yeah, it's I guess we're just lucky to have that in us. So you found the flip life content, and I saw you put out content. You were doing it. You were going from like 0 to 10
Yeah,
k
yeah,
or something like that,
that
right?
I didn't stick to that, unfortunately, but I did do a bunch of, you know, especially flips from having like spending no money. I did a lot of flips of I got something for free and was able to sell it for 50, 75, 100. Um, I'm not so happy that I didn't stick with the content creation side of it, because that was a big side of it. I don't think I had um, there was motivation behind it from a fiscal, like from a monetary point of view, but the main thing was to show other people, you know, if you don't have any money, there is still a way to
Mm.
make money by, you know, going on Free Cycle, going on Facebook Marketplace, searching by free, and, you know, you don't get, it's not like there's 101 things that you can get for free and flip for 50, but if you're patient and you pick the right things, you can easily go from, you know, 0 to £100 in a couple of days.
Mm, totally. Yeah, it blows people's minds. We when I post, like, we have a community Facebook page. We live in more of a like an HOA type place. So when I post like, "Hey, I'll do this for you as a service," and people take me up on it, it blows their minds that they're able to clear out a garage, a closet, a room, and turn that into cash.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a little bit, they have that peace of mind that it's gone and they got something for it. So yeah, I I always encourage people to do that, and I'm that's one of my favorite things. The trash talk is one of my favorite pillars of Gary's content. Super entertaining, but to deliver that message to his audience, I think is fantastic. Um, so you get ultimately you become a follower. I know before we get to the VeeFriends chapter, were you um one of these people that were listening to his podcast like every time it comes out? Were you getting closer in fandom to him as before VeeFriends came out, or was it just serendipitous that you kind of found VeeFriends and it clicked?
So I definitely wouldn't say I was religious in, you know, always listening to, you know, the podcast when it comes out. Um, I was consuming a lot of his content just through Instagram or maybe through Facebook or um, Twitter or wherever it was. Probably watched a few YouTube um, videos that either he made or interviews that he had with people. But yeah, I would probably say I was definitely I wasn't so like I wasn't like a super fan, but I was definitely a big fan of his at that point. Um, and I definitely got closer when I dropped out of university, dropped out, like quit my placement year. So I had this, you know, year in industry, for like kind of sandwiched in between my second and third year of university, and I was 9 months into that, out of the 12 months, and that was when I decided to call it, drop out of university, to quit that job, and to start, flipping full time. And so I was leaning into his content more then,
Got it.
um, especially, you know, when he started talking about sports cards. Um, that piqued my interest a lot, and I started getting into sports cards as well around that time, and made some decent money there. And so then the next thing was, he started talking about NFTs, and I was like, hold on a second, what's NFTs? And it was kind of like a natural step, because I'd followed him with sports cards. I kind of had this trust and confidence in him,
Mm,
but I also felt like at that time I really had a good grasp of like who he was. I didn't feel like this guy was, like playing around, or that he was, potentially leading me astray. I was very confident in, who he was, and how, you know, honorable he is to his word, kind of thing.
I love that. Yeah, that was a great time. The sports card era. I caught on a little bit later than I would have liked to, looking back, but it was a good time, and set us up perfectly for this NFT era. So you're definitely tapped in when he's saying what's an NFT, or the study NFTs, get a MetaMask. You're definitely tapped in for that. I had Zane on this show a few
I
episodes
love
back,
Zane. Yep.
and this mini era ends with him needing mods. You become one of the first ones. Talk to me about how that came about. How did you become one of the first mods? Is it one? You're in the first round of hiring, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to go, I don't think it matters too much, but yeah, I was the first. So there were two mods that he hired straight away. I think I was the first person who he spoke to about it, but he brought on, two of us. It was me and a guy called the Wealthy Frog, um, from Australia, and that was kind of like the first meeting was basically with us two, and he was explaining like what we'd be doing, and um, try and stay in the Discord train.
So talk to me how you landed that.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, I love Zane. Um, Huge fan of Zane. In my time, working with him and for him, as a mod. Such a nice guy, and I always hear good things about Zane wherever I go. There was recently a group on Facebook. It was called First in Line with Team Gary V. I don't know if you're aware of it,
Yep.
and that's just closed down at the end of last month, and a lot of people in there are just traditional Gary, followers. They're not, necessarily in VeeFriends, and they had, big amounts of praise to say for Zane. But how I got involved, I guess, you know, I was seeing so much content around NFTs, and I was kind of jumping into conversations on Instagram or on Twitter, um, and trying to answer people's questions, but also not knowing I was trying to learn, like I would hear, I would see a question, for example, on like Instagram or Twitter. I would learn the answer myself because I didn't know it, and then I would go back to that question, or that comment, and I would answer it. And Zane kind of picked up on that, and then when he kind of put a post out there, or like a call out there for mods, I kind of messaged him and said like I'd love to do it, and then he was like, well, to be fair, like you're already doing kind of what we'd ask of you, like you're already answering questions, you're being there, you're active. And so it was kind of, I guess it kind of like naturally clicked that um, I kind of I kind of was brought on. And also I'm very native to Discord. I'm a big gamer, and Discord is, originally like this place for gamers, a server, kind of like we used to have TeamSpeak, which was kind of like this old school version, but Discord was kind of like this place where you had like a server, and the UI was much better. So I was very native to Discord as well, so I think that helped in in being a moderator. Like I already knew the ins and outs of Discord.
Mm. So you jump in there, and I mean, it's just you and one other person at the time, and
Yeah,
it's hot. Like I can't remember the figure, but the Discord went from 0 to over 100,000 in days.
yeah.
It was on fire. I mean, you remember the giveaway for those that may not have been around for this era. People look at like the Fanatics live chat, and it's pretty heavy. Like it's going. Um, but when this era of Gary doing a NFT Series 1 giveaway, you couldn't even you had to look away from the screen. The text was flying so fast. It was absolutely bananas. So I can't imagine what the tickets were looking like. People don't know Discord. People are trying to figure out things. People eventually people have NFTs and questions. People are getting scammed. Like talk to us about that era, just being um, a moderator, just being the first in line, the first line of defense from such a young project in its infancy.
Yeah, I mean, first off, this is, back in those days, that was the craziest I'd ever seen a Discord. Like the way it was moving, that was the biggest Discord I'd ever been part of by a mile. And yeah, it was absolutely crazy. Now Zane didn't obviously stop there with me and Wealthy Frog. Like he went on, and he knew he had to get way more mods than that. So it was very, you know, we were the first two mods, but very quickly, more mods arrived. We were in that first wave. Everyone was together and trying to combat it as a team. Back then, I hesitate to say, but I'm pretty sure that we didn't have a ticket system. So I was just, kind of hanging out as like, this fan slash mod, or like I was in the general chat, every single day, for crazy hours. Like at that time, I think I'd moved out. I'd moved. I'd earned a decent amount of money through flipping, and I'd actually was able to move out on my own to an area nearby, a city nearby my hometown. And so I was kind of just on my own, living on my own in this flat, and I'm just, spending an ungodly amount of time on Discord. Like I think at some point maybe it was upwards of 12 hours a day, maybe at sometimes 14, 16 hours. It was really, really crazy, and I was just in there chatting with people. If I saw a question I could answer it, I would answer it. If I didn't know the answer, I would ask the mod team in like a side chat, like, does anyone know the answer to this? We had a couple of people in the mod team who were very knowledgeable, or very quick to learn NFTs and how things worked. I was trying to be helpful, but mainly I was also trying to. It was a combination of being helpful, answering people's questions, putting their concerns at ease, kind of thing. But also, I wanted to hang out. I wanted to enjoy it as well with everyone else, and so that's why things like, for example, Burgess battles was like a thing back then, because I wanted people to have something to do in that server other than just, type like when's the next giveaway or like what's happening here. So I wanted people to have like something fun to do. But to deal back then, I mean, we weren't hearing so much. Obviously, before it actually launched, there wasn't that issue so much with scams. It was kind of after the fact that
Mm.
that was a big thing. Like I think it was very quite quickly implemented that we had this channel for reporting scams. Um, I know there were people like Corso or Crystal were like in there, like typing in bold like Gary will not DM you.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a big one. I remember that spam. Um, yeah, it was tough. It was tough for sure, and there was so many people, um, and the chat was moving fast. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was definitely hectic, a hectic environment for sure.
I can only imagine. You lasted for almost 2 years, and we'll get to that in a second. But thinking back on the time and the community, when was there a moment, or maybe it was just a overall feeling? Was there a particular moment where you were like, "Wow, this community is different," or like something is going on with this project or this community that I'm gonna dig in a little bit deeper because this is a something special is happening here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I felt that quite early on. I felt what I had found was a lot of like a huge group of people that a lot of them were early followers of Gary or long time followers of Gary. Sometimes a lot of the time longer than I had followed Gary. And so what I found was this group of people that actually understood who he was, and you know, in understanding who he was as a person and following him, it kind of gave a signal of as to who they were as a person. Someone who liked the ideals that he was promoting and pushing. And so it just felt like it naturally clicked. I felt like I was in the place. I was kind of like, it almost kind of felt like I was home, and that's how I feel today with VeeFriends. Like, I feel like everyone's family. Um, and I felt that early on in the Discord because I was meeting these people who were, longtime followers of Gary, and I felt like immediately, I was clicking with almost everyone.
I mean, going back to this, like VeeFriends was born during a bull run. Um, saw tippy top. ETH was great, crypto was great. Christie's auction. There's a lot of high moments. Monetarily, and then because it's a long lasting project, it's been through the bear market as well. Lots of wins and little blips of either, depending on how much people are invested or how you're consider yourself a part of VeeFriends. But one of the things that I've noticed talking to people is that the acts of kindness and generosity have never ceased. They've always kind of been around. So in your position, either as a community member or maybe from the other side of the fence as a mod, from those early days, is there just an outrageous act of kindness in the community that jumps out at you, or a story?
Um, you're definitely right. The acts of kindness and generosity have never ever stopped, and I've seen some big ones. Um, Trying to think back, early days, I think his name escapes me, but someone was gifted a VF1. I think it might have been a mod that was gifted a VF1, or someone that said that they weren't able, they couldn't afford to mint one, and there was someone at the time who was minting a ton, and he I think his name's Alex, but I'm not 100% sure. I think he was quite big on TikTok, and was like a content creator, and he gave like a VF1 to someone who wasn't able to mint one or wasn't able to afford one. So that was really cool. Um, there's been a lot of generosity that also goes under the radar. I think
Mm,
back to, um, I don't want to bring too much light to it because I get why the team doesn't do that, but I think Gary has stepped up at times, um, when people have lost their VF1s to scams and stuff. I think you know that doesn't get enough recognition, um, because some of those NFTs are worth considerable amounts of money, and he doesn't have to do that. And you might have thought like, well, I don't know if he's doing that still today. I can say he is. So I think that's very positive to see. But yeah, you're right. So many people um, were gifted VF2s when VF2s came out. book game tokens. I've seen it all. I've seen VeeCon tickets was a big one. Actually, I was talking to Maria, who's her name's MF Satire on Discord, and she's an OG. She's kind of just checked back in from being away for a bit, and that we were looking back because we DM'd on Discord and we were able to look back at the older conversations, which is always nice to see. And right before, like the last message we sent was back in 2021, where she had won a goo from Gary, and she was able to go to VeeCon from it. And it reminds me of, not just the goos that Gary gave away, but when I think about community members, a lot of community members gave away VeeCon tickets. I know Fred, for example, in the UK, huge. He's known as the generous gerbil. He's a huge giver. Um, there's also, I think, Ross Brown is another guy who, he has quite a few VeeFriends, and he's given away VeeCon tickets in the past. So that's really nice to see. I really like, the idea of giving VeeCon tickets away to people who will use them, because, of course we want more people to attend VeeCon, and if that really is like the, the that's the difference in whether they go or whether they don't go, then of course that would be amazing to be able to give those people a ticket and have them come and join the family for VeeCon. I think VeeCon is hugely important.
Absolutely, and we're gonna get to that in a second. But I do like to point out, for historical context, of course, I'm not taking anything away from giving someone a ticket now. People are so generous with their tickets now. However, since they were first dropped as NFTs in 2022, you can get them on secondary. People can buy their own way. Prior to that, the only way people knew that you could go to VeeCon was having a V1. So
yes.
Not having a V1 was like, I'm out. And then how am I going to get there? So it was up to people like you're talking about to give them away with their extra V1s. Since then, of course, the book games burning, and all of that, and secondary. But I think the stories I hear from that pre VeeCon 1 era of gifting, of course, NFTs, but the VeeCon tickets, I think there should be an asterisk for extra special. I've heard of people gifting V1s just so people could get to VeeCon. So I just wanted to point that out for historical context of the community. So talking back, I just want to wrap up this kind of Discord chapter before we get into the VeeCon and all that good stuff. But you, like we said, have been around for a while. On March 24th, 2023, you wrote a nice thread that you're stepping down as a mod, moving on. You thanked a bunch of people. So you had almost a 2-year run. Amazing context. You've seen a lot. I'm curious, with all the kindness that what was going on, still going on, from where you sit, why, like, there's a sentiment that a lot of the OGs are mad or are moved on. I feel like everyone's got their own story, but there's this kind of like pocket that feels that way. I'm curious, from where you sit, like, why does that exist?
That's a good question. It's a tough one. I don't feel like for me, I don't feel like it is the majority that feel that way. I kind of view it as like a loud minority. And I totally understand, a lot of the reasons of why they feel that way. I mean, I think the best way to kind of explain it or describe it is kind of going back to what happened in the Discord. And I kind of feel like, I'm partly to blame, having been a moderator in that time, because I felt like we weren't hard enough, or we didn't take enough of a, serious approach against people who were trolling or constantly being negative day in, day out. And it led to the atmosphere and the vibe in the Discord really souring. And so many good people, um, so many positive people that were showing up day by day stopped showing up because they just didn't want to, they didn't want to put up with that, or they didn't want to, tackle that every single day. It was draining. And I mean, really, like, going into the depths of it, I think it goes back to, as a moderator, when we first started, we were just working with Zane and the team. We didn't have any contact with Gary back then. And one of the first calls we had with Gary, or it was the first call that we had with Gary, was, I think, 3, 6, 9 months in. And it was basically a call to say, like, look, guys, I think you're doing a great job, but I don't want people to be permanently banned. I don't want us to be Iron Fist. I would rather these people, be allowed to exist in the server. And I hate the idea of someone being permanently banned, because we don't know what their situation is. Maybe they're just going through some bad stuff right now, or maybe they change their ways in the future, and then, they want to rejoin or they want to come back in, but if they're permanently banned, they can't do so. Um, but the problem, and I agree with that sentiment, I think permanent bans, like, I think everyone's happy to be like, okay, no permanent bans. Like, I think that's a very kind of noble, mission by Gary, like, or ideal to stick by, because a lot of servers don't follow that. But I think what the result of it all was, I came away, and I think other mods came away from that meeting feeling less empowered. They felt like, I mean, I can only speak really to myself, but I definitely came away from that meeting feeling like, I didn't feel empowered as a moderator. I didn't feel, confident in banning people or timing out people, or like moderating the Discord. And so, and I remember the few weeks after, I was like, double checking before I even took action. Like, even though I could see someone was clearly breaking the rules or being like, a nuisance or really negative or just trolling, I was still like hesitating to take action. I was asking Zane whether I could, time someone out or ban someone. I was asking maybe Corso. I can't remember if at the time he was, working on the team of Gary Vee, but Corso was, really active as a moderator. So I was asking him for his, 2 cents on whether I should time someone out. And I think that all led to this situation where we all kind of let too many things go. And we let too many things go. And what we didn't realize is, by doing that, we allowed this kind of negativity to fester, these trolls to kind of really find the line and skirt it, but they were never doing anything like you could explicitly say was bannable. Or a lot of the times they weren't. They were skirting that line so well, and they knew they could kind of get away with it and push the boat, so to speak. And I think that was almost like the first coin dropping. That was the first stepping stone to kind of where we are today. And you look, I get it. Like, the market has taken a big turn for the worse, and it's not recovered yet. We're still in a bear market in the NFT world, even though crypto is in kind of almost like a bull market at the moment, or at least the early stages of one. But I think that's kind of like, I think we lost our space for us to connect with each other, chat with each other, be positive around each other, like, almost like talk, like, discuss, like, VeeFriends, discuss like maybe criticisms we had of the project or things we'd like improved. We lost that space, and so it almost like everyone was thrown out onto the street. Everyone was fending for themselves, and no doubt, like, a lot of those people, you know or some of those people at least, turned sour in a way. and there's so many people that I know now, whether it's in these subgroup chats, like the gift code chat, for example. It's quite a negative environment. It's when there's a new thing, a new announcement from VeeFriends, it's more often, okay, let's like what are the negatives about this? Like it's the wrong way to go up. Like it's starting off on on a bad foot, on the wrong foot.
Mm,
That's the fixation. And yeah, I think it's sad. I think I would love to see the main VeeFriends Discord revived. I would love to see them, address this issue and put together some more rules. But that for me is what started it. Was we lost that Discord, which had been, the place where everyone was coming day in, day out, and um, coming there, with the VeeFriends ideals in mind. You might be frustrated from the project, or that the floor price has gone down for sure. Loads of people were. Even I was, but I still think like we could have tried to live within the VeeFriends ideals or embody them. And I think when we lost that place, everyone was kind of on their own to fend for themselves, and some people just went the other way. They just started hating the project.
yeah, they're it's super interesting, and there's a ton. There's so many layers to everything you just said,
There is.
and a lot of nuances. You know, talking with Zane, it sounded like you guys, obviously everything was kind of thrown together. It happened very fast, as does everything in Web3. But there was no. It's not like they took 4 months to make a handbook to be like, this is how you handle all these situations. You guys are just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, and then to learning as you go, and then specific nuances like what happens when someone with a larger following and microphone, formerly a mod, turns into one of those people. Like there's a lot to that. So throughout a lot of these situations, I definitely thought of you guys being stuck in the middle. I personally, it's not like I'm not like a anti Discord person. I'm not most comfortable in Discord. I did a lot of watching and learning from there, but I was never active just because I'm not the hugest fan of the platform. And I did a lot of work there. So that's my personal thing. But there are a lot of people out there that say, oh, the Discord's toxic. Like I'm just not going in there because of that.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting. I think it's definitely on their radar to revive it. There's a lot of people that have no idea what any of that this means because they're just coming in now. There's so many new fans from cards and collectibles and other avenues. So but it does sound like we're talking June 5th, 2024. Just recently, a few days ago, you started your own Discord server, trying to create I think you said a time portal back to the 2021 days,
Yeah.
and which I can only infer as, to kind of reiterate what you just said, a positive place where, we're not going to tolerate that stuff. So, quick, am I correct in assuming that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so. I think. I mean, so I've been, I guess, frustrated from kind of like the state of play of where we are at with the Discord for a while. Or I guess I sad. I'm just sad that that's what happened. That the people that the positive people just stopped showing up every day, and I get why they did. And it really saddened me because I still was quite active in the Discord. Um, Even after that, even after those people left. And so I was, just kind of almost in there with, some other people that were great, and some people that were not so good, and were, maybe trolling or whatever. And basically I got to the point now where recently I was, I was in the gift, like I'm in the gift code chat, the subgroup, the WhatsApp quite a lot, and also the gift code Discord channel as well. And I think someone reached out to me and was like, yeah, I don't know why that guy is being that way towards you, but um, you know, uh, it sucks to see. Uh, uh, and basically was kind of like sticking in my corner. And he said himself that like that's kind of what the spec chat was like. And I was like, wait, really? Like I didn't realize the spec chat was really active. And he said, well, it's not really active, but it definitely has, taken a negative turn, and it is kind of is negative at the moment. And that actually shocked me more because I thought it was just gift goats. Um, and there's obviously more nuances with why the gift goat chat is like that. But I thought it was just a gift goat chat, but the fact I heard the spec chat as well was quite negative. That really saddened me. And then I was kind of thinking, well, should we kind of make like um a different chat for people who don't want to put up with that? And then I was like to hell with it. Let's just make a new Discord server and let's try and get like anyone who wants to join that, isn't a troll, or it's not like almost there's a barrier to negative people. It's just, this server explicitly, you know, we don't want people to constantly be negative in it. There's no like ban in VeeFriends X of like being negative or criticizing the project or fudding, anything like that. I just think like if you're gonna come into that server and be that way constantly, then yeah, we won't accept it. And we won't accept it on the grounds that you could literally go anywhere else and be like that. You could even go to the main VeeFriends Discord and be like that, and you wouldn't face any consequences. But just that place specifically, I wanted to try and protect the vibes and protect the atmosphere and the energy there. And that's kind of what birthed the idea, was like this idea of getting all the OGs together, but also getting any of the VeeFriends, new and old, and bringing them together in a positive space, like what we once had with the main VeeFriends Discord.
I love that, and I think you know when we really get in the trenches here, I always like to go back and like what would Gary think, what would Gary say, and it's like he always says it's both, right? Like
Mm.
why not have another server? Why not start another Twitter space like you do? Just host the party. So I love that you're doing that. Um, you mentioned it's a limited time though.
Yes.
What if we double click into that?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So, so my think. So there's a few reasons why I went that route. I think for one, I don't want to detract from the main VeeFriends Discord, and I don't want this to be seen as almost like the solution, or this is the place where you should come and, you know, for the positive environment. I would like the main VeeFriends Discord to be that place. And
Got it.
so there's in some way that's kind of the motivation behind why it's temporary, is I don't want this to last and detract from the main VeeFriends Discord. I would rather, we all hop back to the main VeeFriends Discord and bring this energy, um, and almost like smoke out the trolls. The
Hmm.
negativity is fine. I think back in the day we still people like someone noted to me recently, messaged me recently and said like we still had negativity back in the days, and they were right. We did. We still had trolls back in the day, but we were so loud as a bunch, as a group. It was so easy to like kind of swat away, or it was like as easy as, brushing the sweat off your forehead, so to speak. Like it really was light, and now it's heavy. And I think it's heavy because the chat slowed down, and then it became, in some ways it became unavoidable, but it also like so many people left that, that these people just kept coming back, and they were the ones that were dragging down the atmosphere. And then it was kind of like you couldn't, just brush it away. Like it was visible there, and you knew it was visible. And one of the things that saddens me is, what about, like you said before, there's a lot of new VeeFriends coming in from cards or whatever, and they're seeing that. Like if they're going into the Discord, that's what they see first off. And that sucks because that's not what the project's about at all. But if they go into the main VeeFriends Discord chat, you know, they're seeing they're not seeing the energy that you would expect from the project.
Mm.
So that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at with everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with. And
Mm,
wherever you're hanging out, that's the energy you're going to get. Like you go into a Fanatics live stream, you're going to see nothing but positivity. I'm doing my VeeFam network thing where I'm talking to people on Thursday nights, nothing but positivity and people sharing good vibes. The
yes.
555 space is the same thing. Um, I talked to a gift go at VeeCon because the goats really interest me,
Yep.
and I'm not a part of the goat, so I really try to click in when I can. And man, there was no talking to that guy. Like it
Mm,
was just overwhelmingly negative. So it's everyone makes their choice. Everyone has their own journey in their own bag or their own reasons for being here or getting in or staying or leaving.
yep.
And then who are you going to be around? So
Yeah,
uh,
and I think it's curious as well, like there's like we shouldn't overjudge these people,
mm,
and I don't, because like you said, there's so many nuances, but there's also this interesting part of it, which is that they keep showing up. Like
mm,
I would have expected if someone was truly, you know, thought the worst, absolute worst of Gary, thought the absolute worst of the team, hated the project, in my mind, they would sell off and they would leave, or they would leave and, if they weren't happy with selling off at, the current price, then, they would just hold their thing and then wait until it goes back up. They'll sell it like, another day, but they would leave. I'm sure that that's what I would do if that's how I felt, because, that would, otherwise it's just negatively impacting your life every single day. But it's interesting that a lot of, the trolls or the people who are being really negative, they're still actively here. You know, some of these people are some of the most active people. Um, and they're still showing up every day. And so I think underneath that, I like to think that there is some sort of belief or hope on their end that things do get better, or that Gary can in some way prove them wrong, or the team can prove them wrong, and that this project will become, you know, the successful, the the behemoth, the massive IP that we all think it could be. I think there is that belief underneath that. Otherwise, I just don't know why they would keep showing up.
that's a good point. I think if you had to really boil it down to a couple reasons. I think people, when things were so crazy, when NFTs were white hot, people couldn't wouldn't couldn't or wouldn't hear Gary through all of the noise saying this is a 55-year project. The short-term vision, um, and some people really cashed in on that. But for everyone else, I think people forget that he's building this for the long haul, and some people, their just conviction meter goes down when it's like, oh, it's only been
Yep.
2 years, it's only been 3 years, um, and in some ways it feels like an eternity, and some, we're talking about things that feel like yesterday too. So that's just my take on it for synthesizing all the convos I've had. But let's talk about a, a really cool event and a cool moment. When I think back to, these VCons, a lot of times I just go right to like big moments that I saw personally or pieces of content. When I think back to the first VCon, the video of your Series 1 box break comes to mind as an epic moment. I wasn't there. I probably watched the video a dozen times though. This is in a place, in a time, in an era where the cards were brand new.
Yep.
Most people didn't even know they existed, unless you were really tapped in. Um, and people weren't doing box breaks.
No, no.
It wasn't a thing. So take me to the story behind you pulling the one of one Diamond Hands hand live in Minnesota at VeeCon 1.
Yeah, that was epic. That was great. That was, yeah, for sure one of the highlights of the VCon for me. the first VeeCon, and yeah, just a crazy experience. So basically, I was fortunate enough to buy two of the or win two of the boxes in the reverse Dutch auction. Um, so I had two boxes. My idea was I was thinking I was just going to hold them. Then I saw the price of those boxes skyrocket. Like it went, you know, it really went to the moon. It was crazy. I think initially, like the price that people paid was $2,200 around there,
Yep,
and
2150.
yep, and it went to 10K plus for sure. I don't know if you could have sold it at like 15K, but I think one might have sold around that. But I
Yeah,
definitely know it went
definitely
10K
flirted
plus.
with there in some of the sales.
Yeah, and that was hard to, that was hard to, not take that offer or not, I was kind of considering maybe I do sell it for that price. And so when I brought that box to VeeCon, my box, to VeeCon, I didn't know what my plan was to do with it. I wasn't sure if I was going to sell it. I wasn't sure if I was just going to hold it. But I definitely wasn't, ready to open it. But what I had been asked by um, the VFUK group, shout out to them, um, was they had all chipped in, or a lot of them had chipped in to buy a box, and they wanted me to go and open it at VeeCon. And so they brought their box along. We all met up at the tables with the swing seats outside of like right next to the main entrance, and we open their box, and there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of hype. They're all like kind of in a circle around the table, all watching. Everyone's kind of like on tenterhooks, like awaiting every single card. Lots of big reactions, and it was a decent box. Like I think they still got a spec, which is what you usually expect from those boxes, the Series 1 boxes. But it wasn't like mind blowing. And I think there's a thing with the Series 1 boxes which is fun, which is after the spec there can be a really big card, but it also
Yep.
can be a core. So it's kind of like a big high or a big low. Unless of course like the character is big. And after their spec, it was a core. And so it almost dampened the mood a little bit off the box, and there was no massive hits in it. And so people kind of left like after that box break, they were like, okay, that we were hoping for something better, but we'll take it. And then I'm thinking, hold on a second, I have a box in my bag, and I'm wondering, well, do I open it here? Because there's a lot of good energy behind, like around me, a lot of people, excited. And so I say to people that I have this box, and they're like, open it, open it, open it. And then there's some other people who are saying like, it's your decision, Harry. Like, you do what you want. It's your box. It's a lot of money to go and open that box, which was at the time, like I said, like $10,000 plus. There's a lot of risk involved. And in the end, I'm like, go on then, let's do it. And so I get the box out and I open it. Um, and I'm going through the cards, and I'm a little, I almost say like sad or disappointed in like because we've already had one box. The energy is like a tad down from what it was. People see, each card and they're like, yeah, woo, another like very rare or like maybe an epic, but it's not like as crazy as I thought the reactions would be. There's no big characters really. And I pull the spec out, and I think it was, I can't remember exactly what it was. I'm gonna go on a whim and say the bubblegum legit llama, and I kind of like that character. But the reaction was like, it wasn't as big as it was on the previous box. So I'm kind of like, damn, I'm not sure if this was worth it to open. And I'm thinking, I've got two cards underneath the desk. They're probably both cores. Um, and so I just go like, look, guys, don't get your hopes up. Last time it was a core. And I pull it out, and for a split second I see the silver and I'm like, damn, it's a core. And then I'm like, hold on a second, wait, no, that's like there's a shimmer there. It's a diamond. And then I put it down, and I'm like, wait, that's that's a one of one autograph, and it's a Diamond Hands Hen, and everyone just loses it. Like, I think Ben saw it. He was like behind my shoulder, and he saw it first. So you hear him go, "Oh!" and then everyone just blows up, and it goes crazy. And I jump up. I'm hyped. I see people like coming from, like they like see us all like losing our shit, and they're basically just running over. And they're like, "What's happening? What's happening?" And it's just on the table, the one of one Diamond Hands Hen, and yeah, just such an epic moment. I remember seeing all the clips, like videos of
Amazing
people
video.
afterwards. It was so cool to see that. I even the clip, one of the clips I think Loic posted, um, really popped off, went viral. In the VeeFriends community, there was, um, I was able to actually find Gary later that day, or maybe the next day, and show him that clip, and he was like, "What? That's insane." The only thing that could have made that bigger was really that right before we had even opened these two boxes, the main stage there was nothing happening, and the screen was kind of just like, you know blank, or like it wasn't really showing anything. And there was briefly, for a couple of minutes, we held off because there was talks of getting someone with a camera down and live streaming this to the main stage so that
Mm,
everyone could have seen it on the massive screen. And that's the only thing I think that could have like made that bigger. But for me, it didn't matter. Like, that for me will always be a highlight, and I'm so glad that you consider it to be as well. um yeah, it was just such an amazing time, and anyone who wasn't able to go to VeeCon, I hope they saw that clip and they kind of got like, they got pumped up and they got excited, because yeah, there wasn't like tons and tons of content of VeeCon. There were people posting here and there, but for
mm.
people who were missing out, that was kind of a nice highlight to be captured on camera.
Of course, and it's anytime one of those is broken and ripped, like it's an event.
Yeah,
Um, and that, looking back, first of all, there's not a lot of documented openings. If you look on YouTube or wherever, like the first one of Gary and Josh Luber
yep.
is there, but like, and then I think it's you guys.
Yeah,
Uh,
that might be the
Correct
next
me
one.
if I'm wrong. Someone send me some clips or YouTube, but it just wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah.
Now it's like it's unheard of for someone to do one without recording it. So it was a different time to do it at the first VCon. Have that moment is so special. Um, anything as far as VCon 1 or 2 jump off the page for you, as far as memories, thoughts, as we kind of are only a few months away from the third year of camp here.
It's I mean, there's almost too many memories to name, and my memory's not the best at times. But I remember, I mean, I met Gary at the field day on VCon 1, and I didn't really have like something really to say in my mind. I hadn't really thought of anything specifically, and so I just go up to him and I'm like, yeah, like I'm like, "Hey Gary, I'm Harry, I'm Burge," and he's like, "I know who you are," and I'm like, that was just that those types of moments there. They're nice to hear, like the recognition um that you kind of get, and the fact that, like, Gary recognizes people, remembers people when he's going through, this queue of thousands of people who want to meet him. That was a very cool moment. I think for me, that stands out, the thing that stands out the most of both of the past VCons were was probably how many times I got stopped. Um, I don't think I ever expected that to happen. And I understand that, I was one of the first mods, and I was back in the Discord days. I was like one of the most active people, if not the most active, for a very long time. And then Corso took that baton and ran with it and really made it his own. But I was, in that Discord for so many hours every day, and I think that did leave like a mark, and people. So when people like kind of saw me at the event, they were like, "Yo, Burge, what's up?" Um, and they were like thanking me for what I did as a moderator and hanging out in the Discord, and trying to post like VeeFriends content, or trying to do spaces, or join clubhouses or whatever. And so I think that was kind of like, when I think back to VeeCon, that's the thing that um makes me most emotional, makes me happiest, was just to see all these people that I've met and grown to love and spoken to online, and was able to actually see them face to face and finally, have a moment with them. They're the moments for me that it really stays in my heart. And I was walking around with the 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 UK group, and they were getting sick of it. They were like, they were like, "Oh, Harry, I can't believe you're being stuck. This guy thinks he's Gary Vee." There was VeeFriends for, sorry, VeeCon 2, the field day. There was this massive line to get in, and I was walking down the line with everyone, and every like eighth person was, saying, "Harry, Burge," and I was like, "Yo, what's up?" they they just wanted to get to the queue so that they could like get in as soon as possible.
That's
Um,
amazing.
but yeah, that means so much. I mean, I can't. It's really hard to put into words how much that means to me, and I guess it almost feels like to get that recognition. It's kind of tough when you're online. It kind of, you get praise and you get kind of recognition for stuff that you do, but the sad part about it is or the thing that sucks is it can kind of like blend into one in a way. And when you get stopped by someone in person and they're thanking you, or they're just saying hey and they recognize you, that means a lot. That never gets old.
Mm, uh, that's fantastic and very true. It's a little bit of a lift for you international folks to get airfare, accommodations, tickets, all of that. And I think people are feeling that now. Maybe economy is an issue, but for a lot of us, it's on all the way on the West Coast of here in the States, which is a little trickier to get to. Um, what is one thing you would say to someone that's on the fence to as to why they should put in the effort, expend the resources to get there, to VCon 3?
Well, first off, it's my favorite number. 3 is my favorite number, so I just have a feeling about this one. It's almost like my spidey senses are like tingling. I just feel like this one's going to be epic. It's going to be the best one. Um, that's my thoughts. That if I really want to going into real reasons behind why I think this one will be big, though. So obviously we had Minneapolis, we had Indianapolis. These were kind of like, they were states in, the center of the US that were quiet, like they tended to be quieter. Um, and it was almost like VeeCon was showing up to create a bang, to create an
Mm,
impact. LA is a different vibe entirely. And I definitely get it. Like it's more expensive. People have to people might have to be traveling longer. The accommodation is more expensive, etc. But I feel like LA is going to bring a different type of energy. Um, Not only the big part, I think, is if you look at the stadium this time, LA Live, it's different. It's a lot smaller than an NFL stadium, from what I've been told. And so I feel like instead of sometimes the complaints in previous VCons were this kind of feeling of emptiness, or I think more so, it's not like there wasn't loads and loads of people at VCon 1 and 2. I just think the stadium was too big. And I don't know, I'm not really sure why they went so big on VCon 2. I thought there were like some ideas of maybe doing it in a basketball stadium, though I don't know how much smaller that is. Maybe that was too small. But in VeeCon 2, some people were saying like, yeah, it felt a little bit empty. And I feel like that's going to be, the opposite this time around. Like LA Live it's going to be a smaller, space. And so the energy is going to be crazy, I think. I think it's going to feel really full. The atmosphere is going to be buzzing. Um, I think the quality of well, maybe not the quality of speakers, but the caliber of speakers is going to be higher, or at least in terms of like big names, which a lot of people like to talk about when they're talking about VCon speakers. I think we're going to get some really big names. LA opens that up because of just where it is and
Proximity.
the
Yeah.
vicinity of those people. Um, they're so much closer, and I just think if you didn't need another reason, the fact that it could be, although I'm hoping that it isn't, I'm praying that it isn't. The fact that it could be the last VCon, you have to show up. I think if you can make it happen, find a way to make it happen. I think you really have to come, just in case it is, because if it is the last VCon, I for me, and if I didn't show up, I would regret it. I would regret it in that year. I would regret it in years to come. So that's kind of like my three things are: LA's going to bring a different energy. I think the stadium being a lot smaller, it's going to have this buzz. It's going to feel full. And I think the speakers are going to be amazing. They're going to be, and I think there's going to be some really, really big names. But I think if it all comes down to the fact that that could be the last VCon, I would never want to miss it. I wouldn't miss it for the world. And yeah, that's kind of my case to anyone who's on the fence.
I love that, and it's starting to get real now.
It
Before it was
is.
like 150 days, and now the calendar's moving. Um, you have one of the when I was prepping for this, I came across a tweet that I remember seeing back in the day, and it's just an all-time tweet. I want to bring it up on May 3rd, 2023. You tweeted, "I spent 30,000 plus on 8 VCon, 22 tickets, AMA." Um,
Yeah.
and then I know it's probably a little tongue in cheek, but knowing your conviction, knowing what could happen with this brand, if someone offered you 30K right now, would you sell those or hodl?
No, yeah, I'd probably sell those. I think I'm a flipper, an investor. I feel like right now, if I got offered that amount, I would take it because I think I could turn it into something more. That being said, I would secretly like be kind of shitting myself that those end up becoming like all-time collectibles, that because they're the first VCon tickets and they're some of the rarest of those VCon tickets. I just hate to think what could happen, and um, the person who ends up buying them from me, they might make so much more, but or they might end up being worth so much more. But I think I would sell them now, just because I think I could use that 30K in a better way, and I could probably turn it into something bigger.
Hmm.
I
I
think there's a
respect that a
bull
lot.
case though. I think there is a bull case for VCon 1 tickets. I know a lot of people were unhappy with what happened with the Snoop Dogg collab. Um, I still think there's a bull case. I think, and the fact that it's got the fucking chromie squiggles on, that's
Yeah,
insane. So
I
there's
think
a
a lot
real
about
bull case.
VCon one tickets. I spend a lot of time thinking about that, especially in this kind of zig when they zag, um, you know,
Yes.
eh, mentality.
Like anyone buying VCon tickets now, like I would look at that person and think, fuck, that guy's smart or that girl's
Yeah.
smart. But the fact that I bought I went so hard back then, in hindsight, probably a mistake to go that hard. I wouldn't have minded to go, you know, half as hard, or, you know, a third of what I put in, but I really went in on it, and obviously it didn't play out, and I think I should have been a little bit more, wiser, a little smarter financially. Um, I think that could be said for, for a lot of people in the space, but yeah, there's a few decisions where I kind of kick myself of, you know, given my personal situation, I really should have done this and I didn't, and
Hmm.
that that's something to learn from for sure.
I love it. Um, we'll check back in a few years. Maybe
Yeah, for sure.
we'll um, real quick before we get to the last segment. I wanted to thank you for coming on. You're just a pivotal ambassador and champion for the community. I know being a mod is a thankless job. You mentioned 12, 14, 16 hours. You know, most of the time you're just a wall for people's complaints or helping. And so I wanted to thank you for all your service with that and running it back with VeeFriends X. Looking forward to meeting you in person, and I thank you for being on the show and telling your story and your perspective on the VeeFriend story. But before we head to our last segment, we talked a lot about the community. I'm curious from where you sit. What does that word community mean to you?
I think community for me, if I had to put it in like a three word phrase, community is everything. I think if you really think back to kind of like what Gary was talking about when NFT projects first started, and kind of like the idea of VeeFriends and also what he preaches at VeeCon, I really think this is the biggest value add that we have, our community, and I think that's the same for other NFT projects as well. And I almost feel, sad that some projects don't lean into it more. I even VeeFriends I feel like could lean into the community side of things more, not just keeping the community happy or doing things for the community, but like really engaging with them and um, you know, uh, inviting, maybe people who have been, long time holders to give feedback, um, or have us more involved in the process of what it is to build this IP and brand. For me, if the community, I think we have one of the strongest communities out there. And I think we also have one of the nicest, one of the kindest, one of the best in terms of, embodying the traits that VeeFriends sets out to embody. I think we have one of the best communities in that regard, of how kind, of how welcoming we are, um, of how we embody, these traits like empathy, um, accountability. We try and embody patience, even though it's tough and I struggle with it a lot. But I think community for me, that's why I'd be so sad if VeeCon didn't continue, because VeeCon for me is really for the community. It really is that time where it brings everyone together. And if we lost that, I think it would be a huge blow. And I think the community will matter. Like, and I know Gary knows that, but it's something that, you know, it's not just about getting head down and building the IP and the brand. It's also about making sure the community is good, that the community is, feeling positive, is they're happy, and you know, I don't want to see people leaving VeeFriends, leaving the community, unhappy with the project, and leaving for good. I would love for even these people who, you know, are negative right now, I would love for them to stay. I would love for them to see what VeeFriends becomes, and I would love for the community to just keep going. Yeah, just community for me, it is really what I hold above everything. That's what has my heart.
Amazing. Really, really love that. And thank you for tapping into that answer. Actually, I'm going to sneak one more in before the last segment. What character do you, Burge, need to spend more time with?
That's a good question. Tough one. I think it's between two off the top of my head. It's probably patient panda or patient pig, and accountable ant or accountable anteater. I think those two. I mean, patience that's been a tough one for me. That's one I'm still working on for sure. And accountability, kind of like taking a step back and pointing the thumb, like pointing thumbs instead of pointing fingers, and owning up to and in sometimes taking accountability even when it's hard to do, or maybe when it isn't even your fault, but by taking accountability you take a better position. I think those two for me are the biggest.
All right. Thank you. Last segment. Micro, macro, spitfire. I'm going to rattle off a whole bunch of questions at you. You can answer as general as you want. One word, yes, no, in the macro, or you can get out your microscope and really explain why. So here we
Got
are,
it.
micro, macro, spitfire with the legend known as Burge. Here we go. Burge, if someone was getting into VeeFriends right now for the first time, who's one person they need to follow?
Gary V.
Favorite teacher you had growing up and one reason why?
Oof. Can't remember her name, but she was from Australia. Oh, Miss Croker, and she had my heart. She was so kind, and she wasn't our teacher for the whole time in year 5, but she was just amazing.
What brand or influencer or artist, musician, whatever, if they came out tomorrow and said, I'm dropping an NFT, who would that be for you to go all in on it?
Tough one. I think I would go for maybe someone like Ed Sheeran.
What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I've got a few, but I think up there is Big Short, Interstellar, and the Trial of Chicago. I think that's what it's called.
Favorite concert you've ever been to?
Haven't been to many concerts, but I think I would probably have to go with Reading Festival 2016.
What's a secret talent you have that most people don't know?
I can stay up all night, and I think people do know that, but I think I can really go on very little sleep. And I think yeah, that's probably a secret talent.
What's your favorite piece of physical VeeFriends memorabilia?
Physical VeeFriends memorabilia. I really like the skateboard, even though I'm not a skateboarder myself. I just think it's really cool. I also think the VeeFriends ledger is super cool. But the original drawings, that has a place in my heart for sure.
Um, Wine, beer, coffee. Bougie hotel or hiking and camping in the woods?
Bougie Hotel.
We talked about VeeCon. This is their last contractual year, but will there be a VeeCon 2025? And if so, where?
I think there will be. And if there, like, I'll be emailing Gary, a ton to make sure that there is. But where? Tough one. I still don't think I would have loved to see international. It was kind of a promise from Gary that there would be at least one international one. I think that's down the line. It happens. I'm not sure if it happens in 2025. I think I'm not sure if they could do it in New York, but New York would be cool. New York before we head overseas, or maybe Canada. Canada is a nice one, and I love the VeeFriends Canada group, so that would be a cool one.
I'm a big proponent for Toronto.
Yeah,
Paper Hands Pony or the koala?
I mean, I own the koalas, and I've owned a couple. I think I own 2 koalas now. I've owned more in the past, and I had to borrow a paper hands pony to take advantage of these treasure chests. But for me right now, it's the paper hands pony, just because that's kind of like me, like that arbitrage and being able to, win these big prizes through treasure chests via the paper hands pony. So for me, it's paper hands pony.
What was your favorite eruption?
Favorite eruption? Oh, hard one. Damn, that's tough. I like I think I like the Bored Ape one. Um, if not the Bored Ape one, I think CryptoPunks. I mean, I think CryptoPunks will be, one of the biggest collectibles in the future, and to give that away is huge. But I like the Bored Ape one because of the the challenge that people had to do. That video they had to create. That was super cool to see people using their creativity and to watch all of those.
The cynical cat, yeah. Would you rather have a 2-hour group dinner experience with Gary, so let's say you and 9 other people, or a 15-minute one-on-one?
15-minute one. I feel like, yeah, I'd go 15-minute one-on-one. No, wait, 2 hours? Oh, I thought you said. I don't know why I thought 2 minutes. I was like, wait, how could you have a dinner? 2 hours. Oh, okay. No, I would go 2 hours. I'll go 2 hours because I've had a 15-minute one-on-one, but I've never had a 2 hours.
If you could, my last question, if you could ask Gary one question right here, right now, he had to answer truthfully, what would it be?
Right now, that's tough. Right now is interesting for sure. I think I'll go with, will there be more VeeCons?
Burge, Mr. Harry, thank you so much for being here on the VeeFam sessions. Really appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, Rob. I want to give a shout out just quickly to VeeFriends UK group. I also want to give a shout out to everyone who came and joined VeeFriends X. But also, I wanted to touch on something earlier that I never got round to, which was the moderators. Big shout out to all the moderators that still that are still moderating to this day, and the previous ones, the former ones. Shout out to Crystal. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to all of you. Davide, I love you guys.
Let's go. Let's go. Hoping to have them on very soon. Yeah, everyone appreciates you guys, regardless of the flavor in some people's mouths. Yeah, really
100%.
appreciate what you do, and I really appreciate you coming on. And I'll see you at VeeCon.
Appreciate you, Rob. See you there.